Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition, perhaps one of the last of the season, perhaps the penultimate, to be determined. We'll see. But it's Kevin, Seth, and Steve. As always, we are back for another Bully the Board college football board meeting. We got a special show for you today, a little different than normal, so we'll explain everything just on the other side, so stick around.
Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please, I'm trying to get paid. Not today, not today.
The CFP is here. Actually, we got a couple weeks, but it's here, baby. It's so weird that there's always so much dead downtime in between.
I mean, with these debates, though, it's here. There's going to be revolts.
The season is here. Yeah, it won't feel like an off season, or won't feel like that much of a bye week, if you will. So, CFP is here. We're gonna break down. We're gonna have a CFP kind of only episode for you guys here today. We're gonna break down both matchups specifically for the college football playoffs. We're going to go over some rankings for the top 10 and kind of the final rankings for the season. And then come later in the month, we're going to do a college football bowl game extravaganza episode where we're going to go through some of the key bowl games matchups. So that will be something to stay tuned for sure. So while you guys are here and before we jump into it, again, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. It really helps our channel grow. We're continuing to do these things for you guys week in, week out. We're happy to. We just ask that you return the favor in the form of a gratuitous like and a gratuitous subscribe. So let's get it, boys. All right. I mean, what a wild time. What a fun time. Let me just zoom out 30,000 foot for both of you guys here for a sec. We've collectively been college football fans for a long time, right? But this is the first year where we've been public with a college football betting model. So before we dive into some of the team specific, conference specific stuff, give me your guys' overarching thoughts for, if at all, how this season, I guess, either was enjoyable for you or not, or how you just sit back from where you are now and think about the season, knowing that, one, we had a model, bet on it accordingly, found lots of value, got down good money, got down good bets, and now we're here at the end of the season. What's been your takeaway, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, and a profitable season, right? I mean, not just, no moral victories. So we got closing line value, but we also won money. I think that's the big thing, for me, and my biggest takeaway. But also, it's been really helpful to look at this from not just my emotional fandom standpoint, going back just 2 seasons ago, like, this team and that team because X, Y, and Z, and really being challenged, say, well, what do the data show, right? Like, is that really a hot take? Is that really something you should hang your hat on? And we've really seen that. And I think the prime example has been Michigan, right? Everyone says, Michigan's a cupcake team. Michigan can't beat anybody. They don't deserve to be number one in the Big Ten. Give it to Ohio State. And what did Michigan do? They came back and they did what we thought they would do because their defensive EPA per play, their offensive EPA per play has just been, they've been a team in a different category of football teams this year. And I'm really excited to see Michigan against Alabama and see what that team can do. Now, it's a little bit of a spoiler alert coming up soon, but I think that's going to be a great game. And this has been helpful for me to enjoy college football even more so.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, ditto there on, profitable, no moral victories here. The biggest thing and the coolest thing is college operates. It's so I don't know. On the betting side of this, so I kind of got to put my fan hat down. On the betting side of this, college football is kind of a professional bettor's wet dream because you could get really predictive stuff. I mean, we can make our model way better than it is, and we're going to do that. But just where it is, our model predicts 42% of the difference between what is predicted and what actually happens. We're close to 50-50. I mean, those are, people talk about you can't predict sports. I mean, those are huge numbers to see for sporting events. One, and then two, you get insane large sample sizes week to week. We were, I think, one week we bet like 17 games or something like this. And that seems like a lot, but when you're talking about variance, I say it, and I'll continue to always say this: sample size and variance are inversely proportional. So as you increase your sample size, you get closer to your true edge. Now, you still want to see closing line value and see all these other things that we did see, But just from a betting standpoint, like that is insane. And then I think I echo what Steve's reflection is there, but I put a little bit of a spin on it, was really seeing that, challenging that mental model that Steve's talking about. Like, what were the things that I was betting on before that I thought were really strong signals that were maybe a little bit lower signals, and then what were other things that I was completely missing? And we had some, I mean, the last part of the season, we had some really big signals. It was really cool to get to see, like, when people talk, when touts actually talk, like, this is a lock, this is a game of the year. We had a couple of situations where we had a 20 showing a 5, and we were able to be like, yeah, get down as much money as you you possibly can. Now, do you always win that hand? No, but like, you win that hand a lot of times. And we were on the kind of right side of variance though, so that was really cool to see. And like, this won me over, and I think I already know how to take it to the next level, which is also the really cool thing too. Like, I know the ways that we can move to make this better, and hopefully, like, if we can get an adjusted R squared above 50%, like, I'm really curious to see what that looks like in a marketplace, because that's really, really high numbers.
Yeah. So you guys both touched on a couple of, I had two things I was going to add too. So number one was the volume. I was like, you do the back testing and you kind of predict out how many games you might have, but then when it actually happens week to week, like, oh shit, 10 games, oh 12, oh 15, oh damn, all right, let's go. All right, that's one thing that was cool. And then along those lines too, what it did for me is somehow made me a broader college football fan.
Oh yeah, really good point.
Most weeks there were teams, a lot of these smaller schools, which ties into my last point, but a lot of the smaller schools that came into, that met their criteria for model predictions. So I'm like, all right, shit, I would never, ever, ever want to tune into this game, but I'm going to now because of our model. And then you start to contextualize what your model might be picking up and why it's liking this team versus not this team, etc. Right. But then the last point is going to be, we kind of uncovered and anecdotally realized where some aspects of this are doing really well, but then maybe where some aspects of it where can be improved upon, to your point. And I think one of those, and we've talked about it many times, is what to potentially or how to treat these small schools versus the big schools, because we know, and we've modeled out that talent, specifically blue chip ratio, is a predictive metric. And with these small schools, and they have basically nothing, it's like, okay, does that throw a wrench in everything? So all those things, combined, it's been a huge learning experience this season for me. And then, like I said, it made me a bigger fan. So I'm really, really just overall top to bottom kind of pleased with how things went, man.
Yeah.
Can I add a quick point to that, just real quick? I want to echo what you said, Kev, about, watching these games. I would have otherwise never watched, like, the Eastern Michigans and whatnot. But, from a fan standpoint, I think one of the things I've also gained from this is I've gained a newfound hatred for some schools that I would otherwise never had. And thank you. Yeah. And I want to say F you, JMU.
Yeah,
JMU, you guys, you guys are pretentious. I want to say F you, Kent State. You guys are pretentious. I thank you. You've stoked the flames of passion that I almost lost in college sports. So shout out.
I'll shut up, man. Yeah. So I hope through this journey too, we've some of those things also ring true for some of our followers, or specifically, board members as well. Hopefully we've been able to uncover some of the pleasantries about the sport and about modeling as well.
And you address a kind of an uncomfortable elephant in the room, which is like, this is fundamentally what differentiates professionals from what touts, for the most part. Not all touts are fake, but like 99.8% of touts are fake. What separates them is it's not as sexy. Like what you perceive as a slam dunk and your mental model perceives as a slam dunk. And we called ourselves out. Penn State, Michigan, perceived slam dunk. And even Michigan did cover that. But we could not figure out any way to model that. But then, a couple weeks later, Penn State versus Michigan State, slam dunk bet. It's not that those bets in those situations don't exist. It's that there's certain situations and dynamics that make those kind of slam dunks more or less obvious, and it's not always in your face. And this whole kind of like mental model, I know ball kind of logic is just, quite frankly, it doesn't allow you to get to that next level. And so I think hopefully we've shown that on the stage that like you can call your shots, you can see big edges, you can win money, but it just looks a lot more disciplined and it's a lot more work. Now, obviously, shout out to all the people that get to follow us. They don't have to do the work. But like that's kind of what it takes here. You know, kind of if you're just watching ball and just going off gut, I think you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
You'll have a good time, but you're gonna have a bad time betting.
I guess. And also the last shout out is to DraftKings, because through this they limited us because we were doing too good. So if there's one thing to take away, it's DraftKings. They don't want our action.
They're market leaders. They're market leaders in profiling bettors. Their profiling system is on point.
And I guess it works. Yeah, I guess it works.
Well,
that was both a positive signal and a frustrating signal, but something I was quite frankly, I did not think
anticipating that. Yeah.
I have to say, like when we've been posting and people have asked like how much you're betting, I have to agree with those people that was very much my understanding. I was thinking, well, relatively betting pennies here. I mean, comparatively, right? I mean, professionals usually are betting anywhere from 1,000 to up to 100,000 a game. We were a little bit scaled down from that number, so I thought I was kind of going through the under the radar.
Under the radar, right?
Yeah, and I think ultimately it was just the closing line value, which now that we look back and talking to Ed and these people have screamed that from the mountaintop, so I don't know why. I guess I was that ignorant, but yeah, an interesting signal nonetheless.
For sure. Well, let's go from profiling bettors to profiling some teams here. How about this? So we'll switch back and forth between the first two slides here. So
yeah,
final rankings are in, boys. And as you can imagine, nobody's happy anywhere ever. It's just chaos, just absolute pandemonium everywhere we go. So top four is obviously set: Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Bama. But beyond that, and even within the top four, I should say, like, the committee, it was impossible for the committee to get this right in the public's eye. Would you guys agree? And but let me hear your guys' takes so far. Like, elephant in the room, biggest question obviously is, did they get it right, and did FSU get screwed?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a crack at this. This is one of those things where everyone says what they would have done, right? But no one really wants to get their head. Like, everyone says, "Oh, I would have done this and that," until they get punched in the face, right? Or so they're in that situation, and no one wants to get their hands dirty. And CFP did the dirty work here, right? I get where Florida State's coming from. I get where all the Florida State fans are coming from. They went 13-0. They did what they were supposed to do, and they were already in the playoffs. It wasn't like they're trying to get in. They got kicked out, right? I get that. But at the same time, I think from the CFP standpoint, they're tired of seeing blowouts, right? If you want to blame somebody, blame TCU getting blown out last year against Georgia in the championship game. You want to blame somebody, blame Cincy getting all that hype 2 years ago and then losing to Alabama by 21, right? And this isn't the first time, right? I mean, we saw UCF. UCF had a hell of a year. What was that, 2019 or so, I think? They went undefeated. Yeah. And people were calling for them to be in the championship game, or at least the playoffs. So I think what the committee is doing is they don't want to see a blowout. And we have a Florida State team. Yes, they did all the metrics to see where they're at on the model on the efficiency landscape. But we have a Florida State team that's tied 3-3 with Louisville in the third quarter. Like, it's not a good look. It's not a good look against a Louisville team that's their second loss. What is if that's one of your best wins besides week one LSU, what are you really arguing for? So I get it. It sucks, but I think they made the right decision. Other than the 12 teams should have been this year. Why do we have to wait a year?
Yeah, it's fair. They're going to play the games already. And ironically, Florida State's going to play Georgia, which would have potentially been a playoff game. And let's just call it a playoff game. All right, let me tell you why the college football playoff committee killed this. And they pretty much nailed it in my mind. And all these people with their opinions, look, you get to have an opinion, but just like Steve said, until you have to do the dirty work and you have to be accountable, I don't want to hear your opinion, because in my mind, they used the data brilliantly. Let me walk you through this. What do we have? What do we see at the number one that they ranked? You see Michigan. we use a lot of data. We look at this. They're number one on our power rating. Let's just assume we know nothing. Massey Peabody, documented multimillionaire, very successful sports bettor. Okay, let's believe his numbers. Top 4 ranking. Well, that would put them in the top 4. You could debate which one of the top 4s, but they're in the top 4. Okay, so check mark there. They get that right. Okay, let's ignore Washington for right now. Let's go to Texas and Alabama. Okay, we both have them at 6, and then Alabama's 8 and 7. So these teams have been inflated. Okay, we'll go to 5. We'll hold off real quick for that, but then let's go to 6 and 7, which are by the data are the 2 and 3 or 1 and 2 teams, like the 2 of the top 4 teams. Oh yes, but Michigan beat Ohio State, so that's why they have to take that into account. And Georgia lost to Alabama, so that's why you have to take that into account. If those teams would have won, easy peasy, they would be in. But they're not. So who are the two? You know, what's one of the teams that beat them? Alabama. Okay, that makes sense that they move up. So that's how you get a 6th overall ranked team at the 4th spot, because they beat the second best or the first best team, depending on the data you're using. Okay, Texas, they are the 6th best team. But again, who are basically now it's between Texas and Florida State. And who is the most competitive team of those two? Texas. Texas is twice as good. If you look at any power rating, Texas would be a 7-point favorite against Florida State. Okay, so just to put it in perspective of how competitive. And then look at Oregon's position, number 4. This is the 4th team, right? But for whatever reason, Washington had their number.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but they lost to them twice. So if you're not going to put Oregon in and they're the 4th team, then you put the team that beat them in. And what does that mean? It means Florida State gets left out. But if you look at the data and you look at the 4 most competitive games, Florida State, we don't even have to do conspiracy theories. Florida State versus Georgia is a 14-point dog. Okay. And we're not, and by our number, Georgia's the 2nd best team. So like it could potentially like it ain't going down very much is my point, right? So if you look at the committee and what they're trying to do, put the 2 best, make the 2 best games with the 4 best teams, right? Florida State is on the outside looking in when you look at it from that perspective. And if you use the data, I don't see how you don't come up with this exact breakdown.
Yeah. Okay. I certainly from the data-driven perspective, like it's really hard to disagree with the selection. What is, put it on my fan hat now, just of college football differently. You understand. I think we can collectively understand the outrage, if you will, because if for no other reason, then there is seemingly no consistency week to week or year to year with how the committee is doing it. Because to your first point, one of your first points, Steve, about, well, they don't want another TCU situation again. Well, yeah, that makes sense. Nobody wants a shitty game like that. But what was the criteria then for allowing TCU in? You know, was that super analytically driven? Probably not. But now this year potentially is like, okay, very weird to me, you know. So just the inconsistency of it. The 12 team next year, yes, thank God it'll be here. You'll still get like whoever's going to be the 13 team. Yeah, you'll get some boo-hoos, but no one's going to be like, oh yeah, well the 13th ranked team had a shot to win it all this year. No, let's probably not, right? So very excited for next year. But yeah, I think top to bottom, hard to argue. Let me
hit this fan hat off your head here. If I'm a spy and I'm trying to kill Kevin and I follow him every day to work, and 5 days I follow you for 5 days, and for 4 days you go one way, but I get to learn the perspective. And 4 of those days you stepped in dog shit, and then on the 5th day you take a whole different route. I'm like, this motherfucker's inconsistent. No, from your perspective, you were learning. You're like, I don't want to work. I don't want to step in dog shit. So I can kind of see the perspective, or I see the perspective, but I have to say, why are we not acknowledging learning? We're go woke, go broke. All this is like the zeitgeist has a very difficult time keeping their frustration straight, in my opinion, because they did it with Cincinnati. This is the first time ever. They're like, okay, you know what? Small school, you did it. You're going in. Alabama kills you. TCU, same thing. Also, although somehow they beat Michigan, which
Michigan, yep.
God bless. I don't even know how that happens. But anywho, isn't this? I see what you're saying. It can seem inconsistent, but to me, it's learning. It's saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, dang, shame on me. I'm not getting fooled a 3-time. We're going 4 best teams here. And then the other challenge I would give anybody here is,
okay,
there are 5 Power 5s, right?
Yeah.
If all 5 go undefeated,
problem.
someone's getting left out. So no matter what happens, whether it's Florida State or whatever, it's like, point being, someone is going to get left out. It happened to be Florida State.
Yeah. Totally heed that. My only resting point or argument to the jury will be, okay, perhaps yes, there is learning involved, but was FSU the 4th best team a week ago before the Louisville game, and now they're not? Now they just dropped 1 spot accordingly? Was that the kicker, really? So like there's nuance to that. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, but I think we talked about this though, right? I mean, we said last week going into this, well, if we were going out with all the 1-loss scenarios that can go, and we said, well, what can Florida State do to improve its resume? So I get it. Like, if you want to say the committee's being inconsistent over years, I think that's absolutely true. And whether you can call it, if you're a believer, you can call it learning, like Seth did, and I do believe that is the case. You can call it a little bit of waffling, which I think it's a little bit of truth there, based off them having regrets on UCF not getting in again, and then letting the small teams in, them getting blown out. Like, oh, we were right all along. What are we doing, right? But that's all learning, right? But you look at what Alabama did to improve itself, and what Florida State. What could they have done? I mean, Florida State last week was at their ceiling. There was no way they were getting better in terms of their ranking than what they already were. Alabama had a chance to improve its resume. Texas had a chance to improve its resume by beating Alabama earlier in the season. So I just think, like, going into it, like, yes, they were the 4th best team last week. I would still kind of debate that, but they're not this week, and that's why we play the game. So it sucks, but I will say this needed to happen simply because the 12-game playoff should have been a thing a while ago. And this is a boo-hoo thing. It's been happening to a group of 5 schools forever. And I'm glad it happened to, I think, Seth, this is your point earlier. It happened to Liberty, right? I mean, no one's talking about Liberty going undefeated, right? Yeah. No one gives 2 shits, right? So expand the playoffs, have some softening of the criteria, and let's have some chaos. But it had to happen.
Yeah. Is this the first time we can actually say, thanks, Obama, and like actually genuinely mean that? Because I'm pretty sure he actually had a part in this. So thanks, Obama. No tongue in cheek there.
A part of what? I don't know the reference.
That he was part of pushing to get the 12-game the 12-game expansion. Okay. So like, I'm here for it. That's got to be a meme.
That's got to be a meme.
I mean, yeah. So I mean, look, if you're a Florida State fan, I get it. I definitely don't like this. Why do you play the games? And I definitely, like, okay, I will actually won't concede to those people, but I for sure won't concede to these other people, which is the conspiracy theory. The ESPN is in cahoots with the, like, are you fucking kidding me? And I want to see the best game. If they did that, good on them. Like, I don't want to see Florida State lose by 100. Okay. And that was very possible. They were down to their 3rd string quarterback. Okay. This idea that, and they've said this, this is how Kirby Smart and Nick Saban both are very intelligent, very political coaches. The minute that game was over, what was the language they were using? The 4 best teams, the 4 best teams, the 4 best teams. Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you're a Florida State fan. The argument I keep hearing is, well, why do you play the games? I don't know. Don't then. Fucking delete your team. I don't care. But it's the 4 best teams. 4 best teams. Florida State is not one of the 4 best teams. They're just not.
Yeah.
And so it was written. I don't know though. Yeah, no shit. Roll Tide. The only thing, and then we'll jump ahead here to some other recap stuff, but Georgia, like, I've heard some scuttlebutt and I've heard some interesting theories about Georgia potentially should have been like in Texas place, for example.
I was going to say,
my like the counterpoint to that is if A equals B and B beats C, then A is better than C type of thing. That's the logic where I've come across for that. But I don't know. I wanted to get your guys' take on that real quick. Like for best, I don't know. Hard for me to count out Georgia, the top 4.
I think that this is how accountable they were. I think you're right. Like you could very easily put Georgia where Texas is, and I don't think anybody would have batted an eye saying that, SEC is really strong. And, the data would kind of support that. But I think they're giving credit where credit is due, where they're saying, look at this Alabama resume over the season. They've just gotten better and better and better. They've beaten more and more teams, and then they capped it off with beating Georgia. Well, dang, look how impressive that was of Texas to beat that team, because that was the only team to do it. And we can visually know that they got better, but the reality is no one else was able to take them down. So whether Texas was lucky, whatever you want to call it, to me, that's them being accountable more so than just saying, yeah, Alabama, Georgia, let's go SEC. Yeah. But I honestly would be sitting here saying the same thing if Texas was out as well and it was Michigan, Washington, Georgia, Alabama. I don't think that would be that crazy.
Sure.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I think part of that too is like going through what is the whole situation, with McConkey and Bowers and how truly healthy are all those people. And I think they're getting the same Florida State treatment. So if anything, I think it's more fair to Florida State that Georgia is 6, right? I mean, for everything that stuff just said, it seems like to me that's consistency. You may not like it, and that's fine. I'm not here to argue for them, but to me that's just consistency.
Now we'll talk about this in the bowl game matchups, but I want to ask this question out because I can't wait. Who's more pissed and will get up for this game? Is it Georgia or Florida State? Because I don't know if you guys watched the interview. Kirby Smart's embracing this, saying, hey, this is a great opportunity. It sucks. We both got fleeced. This sucks, but this is a good opportunity for us to play young guys. This is a good opportunity. And then when I'm not saying this is coming from Florida State, but what's coming out of that fandom is let's boycott the game. Let's not even play. Let's give these kids a free trip to Florida, which is actually, now that I think about it, they already fucking live in Florida. So I don't know. They're going to hop on a Greyhound. It just seems like two different cultures colliding here. And again, 14-point spread for Georgia may not be enough because they're embracing the opportunity in front of them rather than complaining about what's happened to them. And we already know they're down guys, right? AKA they're the quarterback. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, is 14 enough?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll talk about it in the bowl games, like you mentioned too. But these two teams, these two teams have been so far to this point, as of this moment, been relatively quiet with transfer portal news. So I think maybe, I don't know if those guys, if Kirby is like, hey guys, like everyone stick together.
If you're at Georgia, where are you transferring to?
Well, to your point about playing Alabama. Young guys, like. Maybe to your point about playing young guys and wanting to get those guys exposure, maybe it's a lot of that core, a lot of those type of guys who didn't have a prominent role, especially if some of your key guys are hurt, like the Bowers and the who else of the world you're going to give time.
Florida State, in my mind, has the bigger issue with the transfers because Jordan Travis, I believe, was a senior, and so I think he was done no matter what. So that would be a big reason for you to transfer out if you're on the offense. But yeah, if you're a Georgia guy and you're not a senior, where you're at the top. You're one or two plays in that game from winning against Alabama, and you're in the playoff. And just like it was, and just like it has been the last 2 years, you're in the playoff. So I think you'd be crazy foolish unless you're like your third string and you can start somewhere else. But I gotta imagine if you're a starter or you're a young guy that's gonna be next up, well, I don't see why you'd be transferring out of Georgia. You're at the top.
Yeah.
Perhaps. Okay. How about it, boys? We've had, like I mentioned at the start, we've had volume all season long. So over 150 games collectively that we have bet this year, not including, I presume, not including futures bets, which we had several of them as well. Win total futures as well as some conference futures as well. So all those aside, just looking at the ATS record, frankly, of the model here. So, Seth, let me start with you because this obviously lives with you first and foremost. But looking at how things perform strictly from the modeling standpoint and win rate, and how much we realize CLV. What was more of a surprise, or what was more validating for you in terms of the process?
CLV. But if I'm being honest, let me answer this actually truthfully. What should be more validating is closing line value. What is more validating is winning, or to be honest, it's not losing. It'd be going 50-50 or going, 4-6.
52% or
Yeah.
whatever, yeah.
Or even like a small loss. Take those all day. We didn't, what we, maybe I got the yips. Like it's that systematic bias that you hope that you don't actually know until you start hitting the market. Like, which we didn't have. Like we only saw either small loss or, win or push. And then we had a couple huge weeks. Ironically, we finished off with one, and then we had a 9-0 week, which was beautiful. So we had some really crazy positive variance in our direction there. But from a professional standpoint, putting that hat on and really trying to embrace that this year, it's the CLV. And the answer for that is because that's how you know to keep betting. Whether we were losing or we were winning, that is the biggest signal that you can have to say, should I keep betting into this market? And if you have closing line value on, above, average or for the majority of your picks, that's such a strong signal that you actually can bet the market or you can beat the market, right? And that, to me, just going through this process and getting to do it with so much volume really instilled that in me. Like, okay, rely on that, because that signal is so much stronger than your win rate, and gives you the confidence of why you should continue to be betting into a market. That's my answer.
Yeah, that's
right.
Well said.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, not being as in the weeds with the stuff as you are, I think one of the interesting elements of it as the season progressed was, 2 points became evident. We teased one at the start, like you never have the edge that you think you have. You see some weeks or you see some games where you're like, oh damn, all right, 10, 15, whatever, 20% edge, and you got to really kind of recalculate or reevaluate if what your true edge actually is in those situations. So that was fascinating for me to kind of play out and learn in real time. But then, yeah, I mean, I agree with the CLV point, and I think that's well said as well. Like, we could have had negative variance, and we could still have negative variance in the future. But if you are placing bets and are getting CLV, bottom line, what that should tell you is you are making a good bet, period.
Yeah.
And start to finish throughout the season, we were making good bets. Whether they won or lose, obviously we don't control the outcomes of games, but we were making good bets. So that's really what I think I'm hanging my hat on, and what, glad we won money, obviously, to top it off. But even if we hadn't, like, I would not feel that discouraged, really.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. I mean, we saw kind of the whole package. I mean, and the big thing here is sample size, large sample size. We got down on 152 games, and quite frankly, we got down even more than that because there were, games that we bet that we didn't give out and blah blah blah. Like, I mean, yeah, I think the biggest thing, I can't tell you how excited I am, like, to have this under our belt, and like I know how to make this better. So like I'm just excited for how this looks. Just again, like it's the professionals' wet dream, like volume and edge. Like this is there's an algorithm for what is the line from Limitless? Like, no, I have an algorithm for predicting the future or whatever it is. So
yeah,
it feels very much
delusions of grandeur. I have a recipe for it.
Yeah, I have an actual equation for grandeur.
Yeah.
And it's obviously, I'm oversimplifying and I'm fantasizing this a bit, but the it's not that the edges are big. Like, you can see 4% edges. That would be a big edge for us. It's just that you can find 17 of them in a week. I mean, that's the amazing part. It's that blackjack. And people really, if you're just getting into this or you're just finding us, like, start thinking about sports betting in blackjack hands. Like, think of a sports bet is you're trying to find the game where you can sit at the table with the cards already dealt. Like you can sit down and the cards are showing an 18 and you're showing an 18 and they're showing a 4. Like that's a mathematical edge. Now, the whole point of blackjack and why you can't beat it without counting cards is you can't see the cards before you sit down. You have to play the hand. But sports betting is not like that. You can do all of the work to quantify those edges, and you do a lot of work to do that. But if you do that appropriately, you can literally find the spot where you have an 18 and they're showing a 4. Bet that, right? And you might lose that one game. But if you could sit down at every blackjack table with that exact hand, you would do it. I guarantee. Or at least if you said no to that, go figure out math and come back to me.
Right. Try again. Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah. And I think for me, the biggest thing, last thing is, going back to the number of games. Like I am someone who I would call myself a college fan addict. I'm up with the boys watching college football every Saturday religiously. I'm watching MACtion on Thursday. I'm watching, Tuesday night football. I'm watching it all, right? Even then, I'm not betting 17 games in a week. I'm not, I'm not getting to 152 games on my own accord with a winning record, no matter how many hours I put into this. So I think this was so great because it got to feed that little, devious side of me, like, oh yeah, let's get some action down. But you're doing so responsibly where you have edges, and the sample size, the number, the sheer volume is still there, more than I could even stomach. So I think this was a great learning experience, and it's only year one. I mean, that's just the wild parts to me. Not that I expect us to fail by any means, but I mean, just the year one coming out so hot and learning so much at the same time was a hell of a ride.
Yeah, such a positive experience, especially after last year with football. Like, just such a positive experience.
Yeah, very sweet combination, but
yeah,
and just like the Sugar Bowl, baby. How's that for transition? Sweet combination. All right,
like
this is. We're gonna break down both playoff games here. First one up is Texas and Washington. So opener was at 4 in favor of Texas. Our number says it's 6. I don't know which one I'm more excited for. Honestly, it's hard for me to quantify my excitement, but I'm jacked up for this one, obviously. So I don't know where the market's at. Actually, my eyes are bad. That's 4.5 now, almost across the board. Market,
yeah,
makers,
almost. There are some, because Circa has it at 4. There are some 4s you can still get at retail books, but yeah, it's 4.5 pretty much is the consensus.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know. I want to get you guys to take on a few things. I don't even know where to start, but Steve, let me start with Quinn Ewers, Michael Penix. Don't know. Likely neither of those are going to win the Heisman, but both were in the Heisman conversation pretty much all year long to some extent, right? So convince me or yourself, but me, because I want to hammer this. Convince me why I should not just absolutely, for the fan to me, go nuclear on the over, because I'm seeing points on the board for this one.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're looking at this defensive EPA per play for Texas. This is tough for me, right? Because there are so many. I'm not calling them unknowns, but I'm gonna call them mysteries, right? The whole mystery of Michael Penix, right? Is he playing hurt? Is he fully healthy? What's in that freaking box that he keeps going into, right? What's in the box? What's in the box? Yeah, what is going on there? And then really, honestly, is this? We saw this Texas team, and again, shout out to the model. We were talking about regress to the true number, right? Because the model was 26. What was the
last
week?
Was
something. Yeah, over against OK State. Right. You're like, oh man, this thing jumped from up to 14, up to 17, or up 11 to 14, right? What's the jump?
11 to it got as high as 16, and then it closed at 14.
Yeah, that's what it was. And so, if you believe the true number, there's still value to be had. And boy, oh boy, was there value to be had, right? And so, I look at the Texas team, clearly explosive, clearly have been on the right side of things. Yes, they lost to Oklahoma, but they are the only team to beat Alabama. But then I look and I say, okay, well, they beat Alabama on the upswing, still give them credit where credit's due. But then I look at the Washington, and it's like, all right, well, Washington, they've had their close games throughout the Pac-12, very, very competitive league. They've beat Oregon twice. Is that a matchup thing? Is Washington really as good as we think they are? I don't know how to make up or down this game. And for me, I'm glad it's not a model pick because I don't know if I feel comfortable either way, other than saying, give me the points. Give me the dog. You could, if this could be flipped, I would still take the dog. But in terms of the total, Kevin, I don't know, man. This thing should be explosive, but I can't convince you because I can't convince myself. Maybe something's a better
64. Answer. It's sitting at 64 right now.
Yeah,
64.
It hasn't really moved yet. I mean,
Yeah.
we spent a lot of time, but it has not moved since opening.
Okay, well, if you can't talk Kevin into it, talk me off the ledge because I got an angle here, and sorry, not an angle, but I got some information as far as the model is concerned.
Okay,
and the better part of me is prevailing right now, but my little degen gremlins are just hounding me, whispering me. Okay, so make the model number 6. Markets at 4, or open at 4, now at 4.5. Okay, but and hear me out. The raw number here is Texas minus 12. We know that our number. You never have the edge you do, so you should regress to the market. But the question is, when do you regress? So
sure.
I've been trying to do the math all day so that I can get this thing to work in my favor. Full hand up. I can't get it there yet. But the minute this moves to 5, it will be EV, basically, because if you regress it at 5, it makes the number 7. It's because this little conundrum we find ourselves in, where if you make the number 4 and you regress to 4 and you have 12, it makes the number 6. And there's not a lot of key football numbers going on right here. So but man, I want to take Texas so bad. It's just like, when does Washington's ticket finally get punched? The win over Oregon makes no sense, but although the model had it. So I mean, shout out to the model for analytical approach, but but here's the model saying the raw number's 12. So, man, I want to bet Texas. I'm not going to lie. And I want to bet Texas now because I can get a 4.
Yeah.
I can get a good 4. And I feel like one possession, no problem. But then, like, to your point, Kevin, when you're talking about the over, like, you start to, like, look at the numbers, even though the model is taking all this into account. You're like, damn, Washington, look at that. Look at that offensive success rate on standard downs. Like, holy shit. Look at the explosive rate for Texas. That's not good. And there's just something intangible about what's going on with Washington.
Right.
Yeah.
Their wide receivers, I don't think they remind me of watching NFL football in that their passing game is so consistent. Like, I don't remember a college team where you think, like, when he throws it, they're probably going to catch it. Like, it's not like, oh, he's just throwing it up, we'll see what happens. Like, no, there's a method to the madness there. So
my one question, I want to get your guys' thoughts on this real quick. So, during the season, you got games obviously once a week. So openers would hit Sunday afternoon, and then we had I would say a kind of a swagged anecdotal cutoff for when we would stop, by and large, stop betting during the week, because you get lines sort of transitioning from openers to closers. A lot more information is baked into the market, right? So
and quite frankly, we probably could have bet those. It's just we talked about this yesterday, the NFL, like, we got to prove a lot to ourselves and, like, to our followers, to our, the people that are paying for our picks. Like, we have to take that into account here. Even though there was money to get down, guaranteed. It's just, we gotta prove to ourselves that we should even be considering ourselves in the sentence with, moderate to closing lines. That's kind of my take on that.
So I was going to wrap up or finish the question, maybe you could see it coming, is like, with so much time in between when these lines open and when the games are actually played, how does that affect your approach in if it does switch to 5, for example, how close it will come game time for you to be like, yes, definitely, or like, oh no, maybe something's weird, it's too close now?
I think from what I'm taking away this season, I believe the model more. I don't, like, again, I'll still, like, you don't have the edge that you believe you do. I mean, I did the math. Even if this thing moves to 5 and you make it a 7, that's only a 1.7% edge. It wouldn't even meet our 2% criteria. I'm okay with, maybe we won't give it out as an official pick to our board members, but, like, I feel comfortable taking that edge. So to your point, like, I think if it starts moving there, I will use it as a signal. But yeah, the maturity of this market will be interesting because the handles, and I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I wonder if that plays a role into why this thing hasn't moved very much. But or people I'm just curious.
Right.
Not curious. Like we know what's in the model, so we know like it's some of the data you see here, and then a couple of other variables. But like, I don't know. Yeah, Washington is just a weird team, and just like by the data definition, they're kind of in this. They're in the playoff just because they did things that they kind of weren't supposed to do. Like even so, the model showed value at a 10, right? Right. It showed value saying that, but it still put them as a 4% loss, like a 4-point loss game. Like it didn't say that they would win the game. It just said that they two's too many. Okay, I can get behind that here, but yeah, Washington is kind of dodging bullets out here, and I'm not really sure how do you take that part into account here? But every part of me wants to back Texas here.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I'm with you. So,
but maybe I got to be a Pac-12 homer. Like I got to just represent Pac-12 as long as I can.
Yeah, for the last time, officially at least.
You only got a few more weeks to do it.
All right. Well, I'm coming then at Louisiana. I'm coming with my Pac-12 gear.
Okay, now Rose Bowl action, my friend. This another one too for different reasons, like equally as excited. I don't know. I have not been able to validate this. I saw it. I didn't fact check them, but I'm not sure we've ever had a Michigan-Alabama matchup in a bowl game or in a college football playoff matchup or ever. Yeah, two obviously super storied franchises or organizations and schools. So really excited for this one. From a modeling standpoint, we say the number is 2, and that's what the opener was as well. So strictly from our approach, no edge to be had. But Seth, I fancy a guess that. Okay, you got your hand up.
Well, sorry. What's your guess? What's your guess? Yes, I was asked for permission. What's your guess?
I was going to say similar to how you are fighting the urge on Texas, you have a similar feel or thought here with Alabama.
Yeah, well, this one is even worse maybe because there's no urge. The data show that there's a bet here. That's the best way to say it. So yeah, I didn't update the graphic because I just wanted to be as transparent as possible. Okay. The model makes the true number Michigan -3. Okay. If you believe that, which isn't a real big stretch here. Now it's a key number, but it's not, that's not a huge stretch. Okay. Michigan -3. There is a -1 at MGM -110. That is a bet that it meets criteria. It would be a bet in favor of Michigan. Go Blue. I haven't bet it yet. I wanted to save it here because it's not going anywhere. You can see Sharpbook, Pinnacle took a little bit of money on Bama, but
I wonder why they're sleepy like that.
I don't know. I don't think this is, shout out to all the people that we've been talking to on TikTok. So this to me is one of the psychological things that's going on with retail books. Like this to me is a time when they play some psychological tricks. When the handle is low, when the limits are low, they will do these weird things where they make it more enticing to bet a team that they think the public wants to bet. And in this case, Alabama. I have seen that by studying the markets over and over and over. Now it isn't the whole thing like they don't know.
It's not more expensive though. Like that would make sense to me if it was a little more expensive.
They're not juicing it.
No, they're not.
I think they want as much early handle that they can get. When the limits are relatively low with the information that they have. I mean, it's a bad ticket though. I mean, think about it. It's a negative EV ticket. They're selling it to you at a quote unquote market price, but it's still a horrible deal. They're selling if they think what they know. They know the market's telling them this number at worst is 1.5, but let's average out 1.5 with 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. Let's call that like 2, but it's actually probably closer to 2.5. But let's just say the true number is 2, and you're selling people +1s, and the true number is +2, and you've got it juiced. You're okay for right now. Just trust me. If Sharpbook moves it, it will move. Like I have studied the market enough. They don't get wild. They pick their spots to just like, well, yeah, we'll take your dumb money. But again, it's only dumb money because they have the perspective of the sharp books. That's why they can assess that, hey, we'll put up a bad bet and we'll see if people will take it. But again, also important, they try to kick out as many. I mean, draft. Where's it at of DraftKings? Do you happen to know?
1.5. I'm staring at it right now. -1.
Well, yeah. Why? Because they'll fucking kick people out. So like, I can't go there and bet the 1.5, even though the Michigan -1.5, even though it's a good bet. Why? Because they kick me out. So they can't even. I can't even take their money. I can't even get down on the bad bet. The only people they can get are their bad bet, but they'll let as many people in that will take the bad bet that they're offering. So I think that's kind of what's going on. So I don't know. So technically, Bama -1, MGM -110 is a bet. Is it? I don't know. I don't know. I kind of want to take it to be contrarian. I like that it's contrarian. I'm scared that I learned my lesson. Like, don't doubt Nick Saban. Like, just don't do it. It's a bad business.
Well, Steve, you were what's the word I'm looking for?
Low on Alabama.
About Bama in a very particular way for a lot of the season.
Listen, every week,
give some context.
Every week
Give some context, please.
Every week I have gone and I have betted against Alabama, and every week after that, I have regretted betting against Alabama. Week after week after week, I have had to learn this lesson the hard way.
You didn't take the 6.5 last week?
Wait, hold on.
Okay, my bad.
With that being said, give me Michigan. Let me channel my inner Pat McAfee, right? No, this is I'm all on Michigan here, and I'm really glad. I know we're talking about this offline, through text. But I'm really glad this ends up being the criteria for a model bet, because this is a spot where I really, to your point, Seth, be contrarian. Everyone's talking about Michigan shouldn't be here. Michigan cheated. Michigan didn't play anybody. This and that. This is the perfect spot to unleash a season's worth of frustration on you senseless Michigan haters that Michigan doesn't deserve to be crowned an elite team. I am backing the maize and blue all day.
Yeah.
Or amazing, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a 2.59% EV bet if you believe the -3, and you can get the -1. And I think it's just too good of a situation.
Yeah.
And I think I think I have to bet it. Like, I can't, I can't really see a reason to not bet it.
Okay.
I mean, even if you believe the number, even if you say it's 2 and you can get a 1, that's a 0.18 EV bet, meaning it's very slightly EV, but it's still EV. It's still a good bet. Like, I think it's almost it's disrespectful to not take it.
Yeah, I think the last thing I'll say is just, like, I think Michigan has been, I mean, pick a game, any game, right? Michigan has been this consistently dominant team every game they've stood up for. Alabama is definitely on the uptick. Obviously, beating Georgia's huge, but they still have their fluctuations. And I mean, they were. I mean, they look at the Auburn game, right? The Iron Bowl. So I see these games, man, and I just think Michigan is the more complete team. And I love for a chance, but my money where my mouth is. That's all I'm saying.
You said pick a team pick a game, any game. Maryland. They struggle with Maryland, and I don't know why, but they did. And but they didn't struggle against Ohio State, really good defense. They didn't struggle against Penn State, really good defense. Alabama's defense, let's be honest, it's good, but it's not as good as those defenses. The one thing that scares me is how the fuck did Bama beat Georgia? McConkey went down. We're not sure the health of Bowers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna bet. I'm betting. I will bet it. MGM, shout out to you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for not limiting me. -1. Michigan -1 at -110 at BetMGM. It is a bet.
Okay. Oh. Prediction time then. Okay, because we'll probably do one more follow up when these games conclude and preview the national championship, right? But nothing you guys have said about this game in particular has dissuaded me or convinced me or changed my mind. Frankly, I think it's going to be Michigan, and I think it's going to be Washington in the championship.
Wow.
Okay, so my pick's officially Michigan and Washington to make it, and TBD for who will win the ship depending on what happens. But what do you guys think? What's going to happen?
Part of me wants it to be Alabama, Texas, just because we went to that game this year, and how cool will that be? Part of me is very scared to doubt Nick Saban, even though I will be betting Michigan here, but that's because of the model. I'm just going to use the data here. The data tell me it's going to be Michigan, Texas.
Okay. All right, Steve, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, in my heart of hearts, I will be rooting with every fiber in my being for a Michigan and Washington championship, solely because I want to see a Pac-12 team with a chance for the title for one last time.
In the last year.
Yeah, I mean,
poetic
like
justice,
that.
man.
Yeah, there's nothing more that I want, right? With that being said, I do think it's gonna be Michigan, Texas. I think this is the week Washington's their number called. I think Texas truly is the better team. I think there's a lot of questions with Washington right now, and the Oregon wins are impressive, but I think it's a matchup advantage with Washington, Oregon. I don't know if Washington is really that much better than a true number 6 team at the time is. So give me Texas, give me Michigan. And we'll see what happens come New Year's Day.
Yeah. Can't wait.
Can't wait. I know it still feels like a ways away, but it will be here in the blink of an eye. So really excited for it all. Glad we could do this. Like I said, we're going to be breaking down in another episode coming up soon.
Next week. All the bowls.
All of the bowl games. So we got a lot more in tune for you from the college football board meeting perspective. So stay tuned for that, everybody. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us today. Until next time, good night and good luck.